Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. Today is my May monthly reset video, and in these videos I do any books I've hauled over the past month, so any books I hauled in April, as well as updating my reading journal and then putting the TBR for May onto, I think, the next month, I guess. So for this month, it'll be for May, onto the shelf in my room where I keep my next reads. So, and that just kind of quickly goes over that TBR as well. So I always start with the haul. And to be completely honest, I went off the rails again this month. I did go on vacation. I bought way too many books on vacation, but you know what? I'm not even going to try to explain myself at this point. I enjoy buying books. I enjoy reading books. Those are my hobbies, and it is what it is. So there are 36 books here that I'm going to go through. I'm going to try to do this as fast as possible because this isn't even usually the longest part of the video. The journaling is, so I don't want this to be super duper long. Yeah, we're just going to go through them. And I will obviously talk about these books in more detail when I read them or when I select them in a TBR video, but I do vlog every book that I read. That is the new format I'm trying to do, or I will at least do a mini wrap up like I just did with my vacation reads because I didn't want to vlog on vacation. I just went and talked through the 5 books I read that week. You will hear more about these books eventually, so I'm going to try to keep it short as I extend this intro by yapping. So without further ado, we're going to get started on the books. So like I said, I bought way too many books on vacation. 2 of them were the only other Riley Sager books I don't own or aka haven't read in his backlist until With a Vengeance comes out, and that is Lock Every Door and Survive the Night. I don't know much about what these are. I know this one's kind of like a 90s feel, so I'm excited for that one. It actually takes place in 91, which is when I was born, so that's awesome. But I don't like to know too much about his books going in. And then this one is something about an apartment. That's all I know. So the last 2 Riley Sager books on his backlist until I'm caught up. I also purchased Murder Road by Simone St. James on vacation. I am really liking her books. I've read 2 of them so far. So I've just kind of been buying them when it like tickles my fancy. And this one was like, I think her recent release from last year, and I saw that it's out in paperback, so I picked it up. All this says is a young couple finds themselves haunted by a string of gruesome murders committed along an old deserted road in this terrifying novel. So again, all I want to know, Riley Sager is actually blurbed on the back. I've enjoyed her books. They kind of straddle the line between horror and thriller to me, like there's both. And this one doesn't look like it, but a lot of her other books, or the other 2 books I've read by her, were dual timelines, but this one doesn't seem to be. I'm trying not to look too hard. But this also takes place in the 90s, 95, so clearly I had a theme with my thrillers. And then the final thriller I think that I picked up on vacation was Two Can Keep a Secret by Karen M. McManus. This is the final book of hers that I don't own, that I haven't read on her backlist. I have Such Charming Liars, which is on my shelf still, but that's the only other book by her that I haven't read, and this was the one I didn't own. So I don't, again, know too much about this. I think hers are always like teen novels, and like people start to go missing, or there's just like a string of events that are all linked and they bring a bunch of people together, whether or not they're friends at the beginning or whatever. But The Cousins was a group of cousins. The One of Us is Lying books were a group of like high school students, and then I can't even remember. All of her books usually have like a group of teenagers, or like at least 2 teenagers that get together to solve a mystery that they're both somehow intertwined in, or all somehow intertwined in. So, and that's what this one looks to be. Ellery, her aunt was the first to go missing, and then it was the homecoming queen, and Malcolm is the brother of the guy whose girlfriend was murdered 5 years ago. And then I guess his brother was this close to being named a suspect. The homecoming queen must have been Declan's girlfriend, and Malcolm's obviously related that way, and then it's like who will be the third. So brief synopsis on that. Again, I'll talk more about them when I read them. We'll go through all the romance books now. I bought both Out on a Limb and Out of the Woods by Hannah Bonham Young. This one I know is surprise pregnancy trope, I think, between like a one-night stand and 2, I think it's 2 friends. Okay, they become friends. And then High School Sweethearts, Second Chance maybe? Or they're already married and their marriage is failing, so they're trying to fix it. One of the 2. And I actually, like, I'm excited if that's this trope, because Left of Forever by Tara DeWitt comes out this month, like in May. And I believe that is like trying to fix a relationship that we learned about in Savor It, and I was really excited to see that couple. So if this is similar, I'm hoping I like both of them. Also on vacation, I picked up Catherine Cowell's Fragile Sanctuary, which is the first book in, what was it called? I just looked this up. Sparrow Falls, it's on the front. Sparrow Falls the series called Sparrow Falls. And I think there's going to be 6. I think there's 4 out or 3 out. And then one coming out in like September or July. And then the other one coming out at the end of the year. So there's either 5 or 6, I can't remember. But these have been touted as romance with a bit of mystery, so similar to like the Eden series. And when I went to buy this at the bookstore, there was a girl in there talking to the bookseller, and she said she ate this up, loved it, highly recommended it. He actually was like, and I love Riley Sager because I was buying one of the Riley Sager books at that point too. So came highly recommended by the girl talking to the bookseller, and I know there's been quite a few booktubers that have talked about it, and then Elsie Silver is blurbed on the front. So if she likes it, I'll probably like it. And then speaking of Tara DeWitt, I picked up the co-op by her. I don't know much about it, but I have loved Funny Feelings as well as Savor It by her, and I plan on getting Left of Forever. And I think there's one other book, and I don't know if it's not out yet or if it just hasn't been like traditionally published again. They had a fling when they were teens, and like a summer fling when they were teens, and then I think there's like a construction project that they're working on together. And it looks like Marriage of Convenience. I don't know too much about it, but I've loved her books so far, so I'm hoping I enjoy this one as well. I know I'm really good at explaining all of these, but honestly, anymore, I just buy a book because I either like the author or like the premise that I hear somebody describe at one point, and I don't look too deep into it otherwise. This is the second book in the Undone series. Unsteady was the first one. I have not read that yet. It is something that I plan on reading in May, and then I have this one next. So I believe these are like hockey romances that border more emotional. They've been compared to the Boys of Tommen series. So that's what sold me on these, honestly. And I do have, like I said, Unsteady on my TBR for May. Not my official TBR, but the TBR that I set in my brain. So I'm hoping to get to that this month so that I can continue soon with the second book. I don't know how many books are going to be in this series, but I just know that they like are emotional, sports-esque romances. Again, that's me buying a second book before I finish the first one. And then I picked up Enigma by Runix, which is a dark romance. I think dark academia dark romance. So I didn't even have this on my radar until I signed up for the Love Story Society, and I did not make the cut for this month, which was Enigma. I was like 180 off of making the cut, so I'm really hoping they add at least like 200 people for next month so that I can get Sounds Like Love, which I believe is the next one, Ashley Poston's book. But looking into it, because I thought I was gonna make the cut, this was the book, and I really think it sounds interesting. And then I found this a few days before it actually came out. So I found this on Indie Bookseller Day, and this just came out as of today, yesterday, which is the last Tuesday in April. And the freaking character art in this just sold me on it when I found it in the store. And it's just absolutely gorgeous. The cover itself is gorgeous without the redesign that Love Story Society did. But I just, when I opened it and saw that cover art, I was like, you know what? I'm getting it. I like it. I like the dark blue. All I really know, though, is that it's like a dark academia, dark romance. That's all you got to tell me. Another darker romance is Lights Out by Nevessa Allen. My sister gave me this because it is just the standard copy she bought, I don't know, like a month or two ago. And then Nevessa came out with the special edition copies of this and Caught Up, and she did not get the first, whatever. If you know, you know, there was like an issue with the special edition rollout of Lights Out with Barnes & Noble, but there are supposed to be more, so she's going to try to grab that one. But she gave me this one since she's going to get the other copy, and I have been wanting to read this. She gave this to me to read before that was even announced, but now it's just officially on my TBR, so I added it in here because now it's physically mine. And then two books I picked up at Target earlier in the month just because I was having a bad day. So the first was One in Rome by Sarah Adams. I have listened to this audiobook as well as Practice Makes Perfect. And then the new one, Beg, Borrow, Steal, came out earlier this year. I have not listened to that one yet. I want to read these physically and I wanted to own them because I love Sarah Adams books. And I've really enjoyed the first two in this one, at least audiobook wise. So I wanted to own them, so I'm going to physically read them. And this is like One of Us is Famous, girl goes to a small town, car breaks down in front of this guy's house, and the romance ensues from there. And he's a little grumpy, he owns a pie shop, she's trying to find herself. It's just, it was perfectly, adorably atmospheric for like a Sarah Adams type romance. It just is like, it screams her. So I really liked this one. Practice Makes Perfect, I actually liked that one a lot too. I liked the dynamic between the couple in that. That was bodyguard and then like small town. I think she owned a florist shop or something, but it was the girl from this book's bodyguard and then the guy's sister. And then the next 2 books are also his other 2 sisters. She just announced the 4th and final one for next year, and I cannot remember what it's called. I'll pop it up. And then I picked up the Strawberry Patch Pancake House, which is the 4th book in the Dream Harbor series by Laurie Gilmore. I've read the other 3. They are just a fun, cute time. Like, don't expect a phenomenally plotted out written book. It is just a spicy good time. That's all you need to know. This one follows a single dad and Iris, who has like, we've met her in the previous books, and she's kind of a little bit of spitfire and can't really hold down a job. She just kind of like floats between jobs, and I believe she becomes his nanny. And Archer just moved to the small town as a single dad, so we haven't really met him yet. But I love these covers. I just think these like stories are just so cute and just very easy and quick to get through too, which I always like in the summer, is a fast, cute romance. So wanted to pick that one up. The final one in that comes out in September, and that is the Gingerbread Bakery Bake Shop, something like that. All right, so on to fantasy. I'm doing fantasy, and then I'm gonna do my subscription boxes last, so that's a mix of a bunch of things, but these are just the non-book subscription box ones. The first one I have is Morning Star by Pierce Brown. This is the 3rd and final book in the Red Rising original trilogy. It is a chonker. Like, compared to the other 2, it's pretty big. And this is the one I'm on. I did manage to only buy these one at a time. Claps for me. And I'm very excited to get into this one. I'm hoping that it is selected as one of my books in June, because every 3 months I do an entire TBR, and I try to do a month that is focused on just continuing my series. And June is that next month, so I'm hoping that this gets chosen next month so I can close out at least the original trilogy and then start in on the next 4. I think it's going to be 4 books final. 4 or 5, because I heard Red God might actually end up being 2 books, but I don't know. So excited for that one. I've loved this series so far. It is a sci-fi. I think it's a little Star Wars, a little Hunger Games-y, because of just the atmosphere and everything, because it's, people say Hunger Games in space, but to me, the second book kind of made it seem more like a Star Wars-esque book, so really enjoyed it. End of the second one, Golden Sun, was a complete shocking cliffhanger. I was not, like, when I read that book, my face just like, so I'm excited to get to the next, to at least see how the beginning of this starts, because wow. Then I bought A Reaper at the Gates by Sabaa Tahir. I have, what is that one? A Torch Against the Night still to read, but I saw this at the store and I just wanted to pick it up because I know I'm going to read all 4 of them. So I was in one of the bookshops on Indie Bookstore Day, and I was getting a coffee because it was a little coffee shop, and I saw this. I was like, I'm just going to pick it up, support them, whatever. So grabbed this one. This series is about like a rebel group trying to, like, you know, overthrow the government system, and it's a girl trying to free her brother who was captured by the bad guys and put into prison, and she's working with the rebels to try to get him out, and that ends up with her infiltrating the like academy and ends up meeting this guy who's like their best soldier but also doesn't really want to be involved with it anymore, wants to basically flee. So that was what the first book was about, and really building the world. So I'm excited to see where that second book goes, and then this as well, obviously. And then I can't remember, the last book is A Sky Beyond the Storm, so I'll have to get that one still. So I picked up Sword Heart by T. Kingfisher. I've never read a book by her before. However, I think it's a her. Yeah. However, they redid this one. Like, this is a special edition one, I think, and it was beautiful. It's not even like sprayed edge, it's just colored edge, but I love it when it's like a color that pops off the cover. All I know about this is it's kind of like a genie. In my mind, that's how I read the synopsis. This girl inherits this house from this man, and there's a sword in her bedroom, and she unsheaths it, and this person appears like a genie. And I think, yeah, and his name is Sarkis, and he's an immortal warrior trapped in a prison of enchanted steel. So he's sworn to protect whoever wields the sword, and he finds himself not fending off grand armies and deadly assassins, but instead everything from kindly seeming bandits to roving inquisitors to her own in-laws. So I don't know if this is kind of like semi-cozy. I don't know like how high fantasy this is going to be. I don't know if it's a romance. I just really wanted to read a T. Kingfisher book, and I loved this new cover, and it sounded interesting because it literally is like a genie and a sword. Fascinating, right? Another book I picked up this month that I've already read, Fearless by Lauren Roberts. I believe this needs no explanation. Next up is a book I've been looking at for a while that is actually on Kindle Unlimited, and I kept telling myself I was just going to wait to read it on Kindle Unlimited, and then they just kept bringing out really pretty special editions of it, and I caved. The Blood of Hercules by Jasmine Moss. This is a dark, romantasy, I believe. And I'm sorry, I could not get past it. I don't know how well that shows, but this is actually a gold foiled paint with the black vines, and it's absolutely stunning. I just know this is like a badass woman. That's all I know. And I think there's like War Academy. Okay. So yeah, don't know. Everyone's loving it. It sounded interesting the one time I really looked into it. And I just think it's stunning. And the next one comes out in October, and it too is stunning. At least the special edition comes out in October. To be determined on if I do end up liking that, if I continue the series. But with the amount of people liking it and the people that have been liking it that I follow, I think I will. So I just bit the bullet and bought it. Then on Pango, I ended up using some credits I had from purchasing or selling books to get From Blood and Ash and Kingdom of Flesh and Fire. I wanted the hardbacks, and I found them, and I paid 90 cents for these because of the money that I had on there. So in my mind, girl math, free. So I have both of these. Again, romantasy series. I don't know too much about it. I had looked into these a long time ago, and I've been wanting to read one of the Jennifer L. Armentrout series. I've read one of her romances and I enjoyed it, but I haven't read any of her fantasies. So when I saw these on there for like a really good price and everything, I just picked them up because I had the Pango credits. So they came in pretty good condition. There's still like some stickies and stuff on them that I've been trying to get off, but they sit on the shelf like this and these spines look fine. So, all right. So those are all the fantasies I have outside of the book boxes, but now I'm going to go into some like random genres that I picked up. This was my first physical ARC I ever got from a publisher. I feel so accomplished. I actually didn't even know I was getting this. They sent me a survey weeks ago that were just kind of like, which of these books would you read? And this was one of the few that I picked, and now I have it. The premise is actually really adorable. I think this is like humor fiction, and it's about a cop who has found out that he's dying, and like he has a son and he's trying to leave his son in like the best position and situation that he can because he knows he's dying. So he finds out he can leave his son more money if he dies on the job. So then he keeps having accidents on the job to try to die in the line of duty so that his son gets more money, and then he keeps not dying. Like he keeps somehow evading death, and it becomes kind of a joke and a local story because they think it's all these accidents that he's avoiding dying from, but he's actually trying to make them happen. It just seems really cute, and I'm hoping it's lighthearted and sad. I don't want it to be like super depressing, so I think it's going to be sad, but I'm hoping that the humor helps kind of lighten that load a little bit. So gonna try to read this pretty soon. It comes out on the 25th of May, so I'm hoping to read it possibly next in my current timeline right now. I think that's what I'm leaning towards, so we'll see, but it looks really cute, and I will never get rid of it because it's my first physical ARC that I've received from a publisher. The next book I have is The Unmaking of June Farrow by Adrienne Young. I read Spells for Forgetting by her. Really, really enjoyed that book. Ended up getting A Sea of Unspoken Things by her for my birthday book from Book of the Month, and that is actually on my TBR for the month of May, so I'll be reading that. So this was the only other book, I believe, by her that I haven't read, and I've heard great things about it. And I thoroughly enjoyed Spells for Forgetting, which I think people didn't like as much as this one, so I'm hoping that means good things for me. I don't know too much about this. I think it's a little bit witchy, which Spells for Forgetting was also. So let's just say, we're just going to read the top part, which says, a woman risks everything to end her family's century-old curse, solve her mother's disappearance, and find love. That's kind of what Spells for Forgetting was too, but we'll see. I'm really excited to read A Sea of Unspoken Things because I think that will be extremely fascinating, but you'll see me vlog that at some point this month. Then I picked up Coco Mallore's Cleopatra and Frankenstein. I've been seeing this make its rounds a little bit more recently just because she had Blue Sisters come out, and I do want to read that, but I don't know that I want the hardback. So I bought this one because it is paperback, and it was her first book, I want to say, because the only two listed on the back of here are Cleopatra and Frankenstein and Blue Sisters. So I want to say this was probably her debut. Don't know. Would have to look into it. But it's a painter, 24-year-old painter that escaped from England to New York, finding her place in this city. She meets Frank. He's 20 years older and a self-made success, has the life that she feels that she lacks. So they get married, and it changes their lives and the lives of those around them in ways they never could predict. But while she struggles with depression and him with drinking, while her best friend tries to embrace his gender identity in the wake of her marriage, and then his financially dependent sister arranges sugar daddy dates after being cut off, they kind of I don't know, all this stuff is happening in their lives. So it's like the chance meeting changes everything for better or for worse. So heartbreaking, entertaining, hilarious, deeply moving. It's a painfully relatable debut. It is debut. There you go. About the spontaneous decisions and the imperfect relationships that shape our entire lives. And I just read My Friends by Frederick Bachman, and that was kind of about how like decisions and like friendships and things that you do within your life shape your life even when you no longer talk to those people. So I'm hoping this gives that same vibes because I loved that book. So this has always been kind of fascinating to me. And then when Blue Sisters came out, that kind of brought it back a little bit more to the forefront. So picked it up. Next, I have The Wedding People by Alison Esbach. This book, again, has been making its rounds. It was shortlisted as a lot of, like, the best books of the year. I think it won a Goodreads award. And it is about a woman that goes to this island because she just had a bad, I don't know if she was divorced or just, like, ended a relationship or something. And I think she goes there to herself and ends up meeting all these people there that are there for this specific wedding, and the bride, I think, tries to change her mind about what she's trying to do. That is what I've heard it's about. I don't 100% know. Oh, it's a divorce. I think it's a divorce because it says without her husband. So it's a divorce or a separation. I don't know, but a lot of people have liked it. I'm trying to read the Goodreads books from last year, so you'll see with the next book that I'm also trying to do that. So I have this one, Ministry of Time, God of the Woods. I just got the third Gilmore Girl on Kindle because it was on Kindle Unlimited. So I'm making my way through the ones that I really want to read. There might be a few on there that I don't get to, but trying. This was the nonfiction choice for last year, and honestly, this is extremely riveting to me, and when I saw that it was, I didn't even hear about it until I saw that it was on the Goodreads list for that. I don't vote for books unless I've read them. And The Anxious Generation is about how the great rewiring of childhood is causing an epidemic of mental illness. And I'm hoping this also kind of ties into millennials because I think that that's kind of where this started. Most millennials, I think, grew up in their young, tender years without electronics. I didn't really have electronics. We didn't even have a computer in my house until like I was a little bit older. Didn't have a cell phone until I was a teen. Like that kind of stuff. Now kids have phones and iPads and stuff as soon as they can hold one. So I think it's talking a little bit about that, but I'm hoping it touches a little bit on the mental illness starting as well with millennials. But I just think this sounded extremely fascinating, so I do want to give it a go. It'll probably just be one that I slowly make my way through. I don't read nonfictions usually like that in one go. Another nonfiction I picked up, there's a story about this, but Mark Hoppus from Blink-182, he's the lead bassist / one of the lead singers. And it's Fahrenheit 182, and it is like his memoir. If you don't know Blink-182 or Mark's story, he had cancer a few years ago and has beaten it now. He's in remission now, and I'm hoping that that's what this follows. It says, "Hi, my name is Mark, and this book is about my favorite band, Blink-182. You either love or you hate them. They are very crass, and they still are, and I grew up listening to Blink, and I adore them, and I think it's, like, they're hilarious. They act like children, but I don't care because I just love them so much. I'm actually going to see them in September for, like, the 4th or 5th time in, like, recent years because they've been touring now again together. Yeah, I'm very excited to read this. I want to try to read this before September, so I'm going to try to get it on my TBR before then. And it is on my 25 and 25 because I didn't know this was coming out. So I pre-ordered this. It was stuck at the mail place, like before my post office, like the distribution place, for days. And I had other books like coming through there and other packages coming through there, no problem. That was just stuck. My mom's like, "Oh, you're just worrying. Then I get this like ransom package from the post office with the label from that and a letter that says like, "Yeah, we destroyed it. We can't deliver it." So Barnes & Noble was great about it. They immediately replaced it like day of that I contacted them. They didn't even like fight with me on it. I just got the notification that the order had been placed. The replacement order had been placed. So yay to Barnes & Noble. And shame on the USPS people that got my book. I'm pretty sure stuck in a sorting machine and then took like 2 weeks to tell me about it. I thought I was going crazy, but I digress. Now we're going to go through my book subscriptions, and I have quite a few here because I didn't get some from last month until this month. So I have all of my books from this month plus 3 books from last month. So this was my Afterlight book for March. It is Fan Service by Rosie Danan, and it is about a guy from like a werewolf show that actually eventually becomes a werewolf and goes to ask this girl for help who, like, they met and I think they had like a situation where like, she now hates him, even though she's a huge fan of the show, and she writes a lot of fan fiction, and she does all this, like, research on supernatural beings and everything, so that's why he goes to her for help when he thinks he's turning into a werewolf. But they do have, like, a hate to love relationship in this. It's funny, like, I think it'll be like a rom-com paranormal romance, and I think it will be fun, or I'm hoping it'll be fun. She's a nurse too, apparently, because she's a nurse scrubs. So that is the front, the back, and then the sprayed edge, and then the redone cover. I really like this cover. I love purple. It's one of my favorite colors. But the back says, I don't know if it was the moon or fate or the universe that made me a werewolf, but baby, you made me human. I'm not going to save that one for October, because I do have Best Text Ever that I'm reading next month, because that was selected for my TBR picking all subscription books. So I'm going to try to save that one for the fall. Next, I have The Raven Scholar by Antonia Hodgson, and this was my Illumicrate fantasy book for April. So this was this month's. I just got this in the mail yesterday, and I don't know too much about this. Again, I read all the synopsis before I decide if I'm going to get the book. I do pay attention to what the book's going to be, so I did read about this. I just can't remember it exactly. So this is about 7 contenders trying to replace a emperor. They were trained at rival monasteries, and they're each inspired by a sacred animal. So I'm guessing that's where the Raven Scholar comes in. One of them is murdered, and it falls to the brilliant but idiosyncratic, big words, Nima Kra to investigate. But as she hunts for a killer, darker forces are gathering. If she succeeds, she'll win the throne, whether or not she wants it. But if she fails, she will sentence herself to death and set in motion a sequence of events that could doom the empire. Cover, or like, that's the art, the book. These ones don't have reverse dust jackets. Fairy Loot does reverse dust jackets. And then the back art, I'm assuming this might be a love interest. A lot of their fantasies tend to be, or at least the ones I get, tend to be romantasies. I don't tend to get them if they're like epic fantasies. Because I think like the one for this next month is like epic fantasy, and I don't want it. And then the edge is really pretty. So I also really like this cover. I saw this book at the beach, and I saw how big of a tome it was, but it was in paperback, so it didn't seem as big. So we'll see. That might be another one I try to keep for the fall. I don't know, fantasy is just like fall, winter for me, and now I'm kind of in the phase of not wanting to read fantasy as much, even though I've been reading it like crazy since the beginning of the year. All right, and then this was my Fairy Loot April YA book, The Glittering Edge by Alyssa Valaire. I think this might have a love triangle in it. So there's like, yeah, these two families that have been sworn enemies, and ever since the curse that changed their lives forever. Now, if the one family falls in love with you, you'll die. A person from the one family falls in love with you, you'll die. But when Penny, Amberly's mother, becomes the curse's latest victim, she must bring together two bitter rivals, Alfonso and Corey, in order to save her mother's life and stop the feud for good. Yeah, I think there's a love triangle in this too, so we'll see how that goes. But here is the cover art, back, and then it's got like haunted house vibes, so that also might be one I save. Here's the reverse dust jacket. I think that's really fun. It talks about them and like some of their favorite things. And I don't know what the actual cover looks like the real one, but I know it doesn't look like this. I can't remember. But this is a really pretty cover. I am gonna say that the one thing that bothers me is that that's off center because of the moon. It's the one thing I noticed when I took it out of the box. So it's still pretty, but I don't like that it's slightly off center. Then I have This Monster of Mine by Shalini Abesekara. I don't know if I said that right. This was, I believe, the fantasy selection for the month. I love that sprayed edge. I love a dagger on a book. I think it's also kind of a, it may be a romantasy. A lot of their fantasies are also romantasy. So someone tries to kill our main FMC. 4 years later, she returns to the scene of the crime with a new face and a new job. A prosecutor who can magically detect lies. She's assigned to work with the ice cold and perennially sadistic tetrarch Yeah, that's gonna be one that just, I'm just gonna see the shape of his name. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce it in my head when I read this. The most vicious of the 4 judges who rule the land and the prime suspect in a string of deaths identical to her attempted murder. So she begins a double life solving cases with him by day and plotting his ruin by night. Ooh, this kind of sounds like, this gives me like Heartless Hunter vibes. I hope it gives those vibes. So, freaking end papers on this are gorgeous because they're foiled. I don't know if you can see that, like right there. And then back, I think it's kind of similar. And then the book itself, stunning. Stunning, stunning, stunning. And then this is, I think, a different color dust jacket, but that's the actual cover. And then the reverse is the special edition one, which again has a dagger on it, and I just love a dagger. So, really beautiful edition. Fairy Loot does such a good job with their books. Then we have the romantasy pick for April, and that is The Wind Weaver by Julia Johnson. And it's like a creamy brown cover. Our FMC Raya is sentenced to death. Her execution is interrupted by an unexpected savior, the formidable Commander Scythe. So he's feared by his own men and enemies, a merciless fighter on the battlefield. He's more terrifying than the hangman's noose. In the clutches of her new enemy, she finds herself fighting for her life, forced to travel to the Northlands with her captor. She's no ordinary halfling. Strange birthmark on her chest, and the wind she instinctively calls forth means she is a remnant. One of the 4 souls, fated to restore the balance of magic or die trying. Yeah, it's a romantasy. So, and paper art, book, edges, it's like feathers. And then again, I think that the actual book is like more red. This is a little bit muted, but very similar cover. And then I showed you the reverse already. So, again, another great edition from Fairy Loot. I do really enjoy how pretty the books are. I have not skipped any of their books yet this year because I'm saving those. But then we have a highly anticipated read for me that was the Fairy Loot adult fantasy book for March. And it came well into the month, and I actually had to yell at them because I didn't think this book was ever coming. But that is Gifted and Talented by Olivia Blake, and this is about 3 siblings who are all vying for their father's spot at their the company that one of them's going to inherit, and they all have like telekinesis powers and all have their own issues and their own secrets and everything. That's all I really know. That's all I want to know. I enjoy Olivia Blake's writing. I think she is she's a very specific type of writing. I don't know exactly how I would describe it. It is slightly pretentious, I'm not going to lie, but I have loved every book I've read by her. Sometimes they're just a little harder to get through because you really have to pay attention, but she has such a way with her storytelling and unique stories and everything. So, I'm very excited for it. I think the end paper art's the same on both sides. It's just the siblings. There's 3, 2 sisters and a brother. So, I'm very excited to read this. I'm hoping I get to it sooner than later. She has another book coming out that I did get denied the ARC for called Girl Dinner, and I think that comes out in like October. Then I have Where Shadows Meet by Patrice Caldwell. This was, I think, my first YA book from them. And I think it's a vampire romance YA. I think it's also sapphic, obviously. But I think it's absolutely stunning. And this is the actual cover. I think, again, a colorway change. But I am interested for it. It has like really decent ratings on it when I looked to put it onto my Goodreads. I think it's an absolutely stunning book. I think there might be more than one romance in here. And I just love this cover. And I love a vampire. You put a vampire in a book. It's like putting a dragon in a book. I'll read it. So, I also think it is like a standalone, which your girl always loves a good fantasy standalone. I am yapping. We gotta speed this up. All right, and then the final 3 books. I got 2 extra books from Book of the Month this month just because I knew I wanted to get one and then I saw another one I wanted to get. I listened to the audiobook for P.S. I Hate You in March, I think, and I loved it. Like, I cried, I laughed, I had such a good time. I loved the relationship in it that I wanted to own the book and read it physically. And this is about a girl and her brother's best friend who go on a not world, but like nationwide trip to go to every state that her brother, can I say this? Hold on. Yes, okay, it's in the thing. They go on a trip to all of the states that her brother never got to go to before he died from cancer, and they spread his ashes in these states. And they had like a little bit of a romance, or like they had feelings for each other when they were younger that were never fully delved into, and she now holds like a grudge against him for something that he did to her. And they haven't spoken like since then. And this trip like brings them back together, and slowly things are like opening up, and it's a really sweet story. Like, that's all I'm gonna say about it. Like, what happens in like the actual mission they're going on, and how the brother is involved in everything. It was just so well told, so well thought out. Just absolutely beautiful, stunning story. Highly recommend this book. I have a feeling I will rate it 5 stars when I physically read it, because I do not rate my audiobooks as books that I've read, but I will rate it once I read it. Then I also picked up Promise Me Sunshine by Cara Bastone. Again, I've listened to her other one. I've listened to that one, Ready or Not. And I really liked that. So when I saw Book of the Month had this, I just added it to my box. And I think this is going to be another like really emotional read. I did not realize she had so many books. I'm gonna have to look at her backlist. So, grieving the loss of her best friend, a young woman finds her life turned upside down when she meets a grumpy stranger who swears he can help her live again. Okay, so apparently I just want to cry, because these are both about grief. And I did cry during this one. So, your girl's in for a rough time with her romances. That's all I'm going to say about that one, because again, I don't want to know too much. I really didn't know anything about Ready or Not going into it, other than it was a surprise pregnancy trope. And then we have Passion Project, which is about these 2 people in New York City, and this girl is trying to like find herself. So he takes her, they meet, and like he takes her on dates, like to basically find a new passion. Again, all I know about it, it sounds really cute. The ratings are good. I think this is a debut. Very excited to read this. This is on my May TBR, so I will be reading it soon. And I think it's like the perfect book to read at the end of spring, early summer. So I'm very excited to get to this one this month. Those are all the books. I'm going to have to edit this down a lot because it's like 45 minutes long. But now we're going to go put the books on my shelf for next month. And then we'll wrap up with the journal at the end, which I'm not doing today in my time, but you'll see it soon. Okay. Quickly going through the 12 books that are on my physical TBR for this month that I selected in my video a few videos ago. Until We Shatter by Kate Dillon, Firebird by Juliet Cross, The Gods Below by Andrea Stewart, Liquid, A Love Story by Miriam Ramani, The 13th Child by Erin A. Craig, A Sea of Unspoken Things by Adrienne Young, Darling Girls by Sally Hepworth, Best Hex Ever by Nadia Alfasi, Passion Project by London Sperry, First Time Caller by B.K. Borison, I Did Something Bad by Paymoth at War, and Under Lock and Key by Lana Ferguson. That cleared up a lot of space on my other TBR shelf because they're all hardbacks, but if you haven't noticed, they are all subscription books from my book boxes, so that was what my TBR theme was for the month. So you can go watch me select these, even though you really don't have to now because they weren't prompts, I just picked books. So these are the 12 books I'm going to be focused on in May. Hey everyone, so time again to do my journal update for the month. As always, we're going to start with the 25 books in 2025 that I have, and I'll put the covers on the books that I read this month. It was only 2, because we're getting to the point where a lot of them are new releases, and I do have most of them now. I think there's only a few that I don't, but they all just came out pretty recently. So I read Deep End by Ali Hazelwood this month, and Fearless by Lauren Roberts. Those were both on here, and that leaves 11 left on the list, which isn't bad. I plan on reading at least one of them this month. So we'll be halfway through, hopefully by the end of May, which is good because it's not even halfway point of the year. So that is looking good. And now I'm going to fill out my pixels. So I do by the genre and by the rating each book that I read in the month. And I will show you that when it's done. Okay, so that's done. 4 months into the year. Starting to see more variety in the colors on my by the genre tracker, so that's good. Now I'm going to do the books that I read this month off of my physical TBR from last year. Hopefully I read some. Okay, so A Man Called Ove, A Dawn of Onyx, Firefly Lane, Never, Cujo, The Teller of Small Fortunes. This is more than I thought would be off of this, so that's good. Gods and Monsters, and Una Out of Order. So making progress on that, maybe not as much as I would like, because I still have, I think, like 50 books left from the beginning of the year, but we're making some progress there. Series tracker. I'm out of space here, and I've said in a previous video that I do track in a different journal now because I have so many series, but we can see where I made it on this one. So I did finish the Powerless trilogy this month. Also the Ruinous Love trilogy. I still haven't figured out how I want to mark that I've like finished them. We'll figure that out. Renegades trilogy. I read another book in the Zodiac Academy. The Wilmot Sisters. Serpent and Dove. The first book in the Sacred Stones. I finished the Green Sisters trilogy. And I read a book in the Addicted Calloway Sisters series. So I do have like a lot of ones done off the first column, which is great. But again, I'm tracking in a different journal, and I do mark when they're finished in that one because I figured that one out, but this I haven't figured out yet. Next up is my book tracker. I color in after I fill out for the month based on like the month color that I use. So it's purple for this one. Hopefully it doesn't come out as dark as the last month did, but I'll color that in and then I'll come back and show you guys. Okay, so now that has been colored in. That one came out a lot better than the darker green. So I think next month's going to be blue. I literally do nothing else for the, like this is just so that I can visually see what books I read per month. I do put the dates in there so I could look at it that way, but it's also kind of like now I'm done with that month, on to the next. So all right, this one takes a while, so the next I have to do is physical TBR books for 2025 purchases. So I'll be back. And I'm back again. So this is what it looks like before I've crossed off any books that I've read this month from this year that I bought. So starting with January's books, I read The Favorites, and that might be it. No, I read Watermoon, and that's it. Nope, and Famous Last Words. Wow, I'm like not good at remembering what I read. So 3 books that I bought in January. Deep End, I got that in February. Scythe and Sparrow, Once Smitten, Twice Shy, The Love Lyric, and that is it. Any from March. Yep, Supernova. I was really good at not buying books in March. And that's it. And then I've only read one so far from this month, which was Fearless. Bought it and read it immediately. This one isn't looking as good as the other TBR for what I've read, but they're newer. So we're going to focus on the old one first. That's what I'm going to tell myself. And now we have yearly stats. So this is where I just write the number of books I read, number of pages, number of audiobooks I listened to, how many books I bought that month, and then what my average rating was. So for the month of April, I read 21 books, which was 9,583 pages. I listened to 4 audiobooks, bought 35 books, which is the most this year, but I went on vacation, so I'm justifying it that way. And my average rating was 4.04, which is my second lowest of the year. I'm pretty strongly around a 4-star this year for my average ratings, so what do we have next? Any new releases that I read from the beginning of the year from my winter TBR. So I still go back and look at those. So I have read Once Smitten, Twice Shy, Deep End, Scythe and Sparrow, and that is it. So making progress on that. And now to the spring TBR. I read Fearless. That's it. And then I did read 2 arcs. I read It's a Love Story by Annabelle Monaghan and My Friends by Frederick Bachman. So those come out in May, so this month, but I did read those already, so I'm going to mark those off. Again, I own most of these, so that's always good. And then for the TBR books that I've read in the spring, I read 6 this month because I was a little behind. So I read Never by Jessa Hastings, Firefly Lane by Kristen Hanna, A Man Called Ove by Frederick Bachman, Cujo by Stephen King, A Dawn of Onyx by Kate Golden. That was the one I was behind on from last month because I did finish it at the beginning of this month. And then Una Out of Order by Margarita Montemore. So I did read the 10 in the first 2 months that I needed to read. I just didn't read them exactly 5 and 5. But I'm on track to read all 15 by the end of this month, hopefully. So it's the lonely little supernova by itself, but I've read all 9 of these and then this. Okay, so now time to do my monthly spread. And the first thing I do is write how many books I read. That was 21. And pages again was 9,583. And then I do print out these little graphs of like my rating. You can't really see it well because it's yellow. And then a pie chart of my genre breakdown. And I'll put that on the page as well. I actually printed them the correct size this month, so go me. Last month I printed them way too big. I probably actually could have printed them off a little bit bigger, but I never remember what size I need when I'm making these, so. Okay, so that's that page, which is also where I track each book and how long it takes me to read it, number of books, number of pages, and then my little statistics down here. And then my next side of that is my monthly TBR, so I'm going to go through and write the rating for all of these that I gave them. Okay, so all the ratings have been added for all of those books. So that is done, and now I just have to do decorating these 2 pages. So I'm just going to put you on fast forward while I do this. Okay, all done with that. So I'll just give you a quick overview. I did this book, I just kind of read by itself. This was my most anticipated read for the month. These 3 were all finishing series that were not on my TBR. 2 arcs. I didn't read a lot of KU books this month, weirdly. I read Goblet of Fire on KU, but I own it, but I just threw it over there because I didn't want to put it anywhere else. I did read Addicted for now, and then 4 audiobooks that I listened to. And now I'm going to put my TBR books for May on the May page. All 12 books added. So that's all for these. So then we just go back to my yearly spreads, which are just like challenges and stuff. Okay. And now we're on to my series started and series finished spread. So I'm going to go through and write in a different color the series that I started this month and then the series that I completed. I only started the Sacred Stones trilogy, so I'm pretty proud of myself for that. And I managed to finish, I think, like 6 series. So I'm going to write those in real quick. All right, so we are still way too much over here and not enough over here, but I am starting to even it out. As you can see, there were way more finished series in March and April than there were started. So we're working on it. We're really working on it, I promise. The next is my monthly monthly favorite for the year, and in April I chose Powerless because that was my only 5-star. I did have some other books that I really, really enjoyed as well. A Dawn of Onyx was one of them. I loved Deep End. I love everything Ali Hazelwood writes. There has not been a book that I have not liked by her, which I don't think is common. I think there's usually like one that people don't like, but I've loved all of her books. And then My Friends by Frederick Bachman. I think those were like the other 3 that I was considering for that. But since Fearless was my only like 5-star read, that's why I gave it to that book. And then my genre tracker, I'm going to write in how many books of each genre that I typically read, that I track, that I read this month. So in April, it was 6 fantasy, 7 romance. So that was the first time that fantasy was not the highest genre for the year. Thriller, I read 1. Historical fiction, I read 1. General fiction, so that's like lit fic, contemporary, stuff like that. Women's fiction, I read 4. Nonfiction, none. I did just get 2 new nonfiction books though, so maybe I will finally get a take in that this year. 1 sci-fi, 0 mystery, and I think 1 horror. So 0 dystopian, 1 horror. Again, fantasy, I think is still winning, just because I've read so many fantasy books this year. Romance, quick and very close behind second. So I'm going to put in the April book club book for the book club that I sometimes go to. I did not go this month, but I've already read the book and I didn't like it, and that's why I didn't want to go. And that was The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I read that book years ago and I did not like it. So I think I gave it like a 3-star. So I'm going to put that in here and I'm going to put in what it was and everything, but I didn't go this year or this month. And I did not read last month's book either because, again, it just didn't appeal to me. It was Tell Me Lies by Carola Lovering. It just wasn't it. It wasn't something that I really wanted to take the time to read. So I didn't read it. And quite honestly, we just voted for the next month's book yesterday and it hasn't been selected yet. And I didn't like any of the options. I voted for one, but I voted for one that was on Kindle Unlimited, so I didn't have to buy the book if I decide to read it. So we'll see what actually gets selected. Rereads. I reread The Goblet of Fire, and then 5-star read was Fearless. So we'll quickly add those. I finally had a month where I only had one 5-star read because I was getting a little worried that I was going to run out of space on this, but I don't know. Next month there's a lot of really good books coming out. I don't know that they'll be 5 stars. I anticipate one maybe. I don't know that I will read it in this month anyway, but there's one that I think will be a 5-star read. So added Goblet of Fire, and then I added Fearless over here with a little sticker trim because I didn't want to put a background color on just one book. 52 books in 52 weeks. This is where I stand right now on the first 25, and I have 4 to add on this page. So a book set in spring, I did My Friends by Frederick Bachman. I know that was set in spring because they kept talking about Easter, so I still need a book set in autumn. I'm sure I'm going to read one that has been, but I try to be very particular about making sure that the book actually was set in that season. I'm sure I'll get one in autumn once I start reading like fall books. And then author's first name is also author's last name is also a first name. I did Firefly Lane by Kristen Hanna. Titled as a spoiler, I did It's a Love Story by Annabelle Monaghan because it was a love story. That one was kind of weird. I didn't know what they meant by that. I had to go in and look, and it was kind of, that was the vibe. And then More Than a Million Copies Sold, I did The Goblet of Fire. I could have done any of the Harry Potter ones. That was just the first one that I didn't use somewhere else, I think. And then for author releases more than one book a year, I went with Deep End by Ellie Hazelwood because Miss Hazelwood is releasing 3 books this year. Deep End, Problematic Summer Romance, which comes out in May, and then Mate, I want to say it's called. It comes out in October, and that is the next book in like the Little Brides. I think it's like interconnected standalones, so it doesn't have to be both read. So this is the first 25 now that I've added those. So I only have a few left on this page, but they're going to be hard. I need some suggestions. A pun in the title I think I have, but I need a climate fiction, includes Latin American history, a prequel. That one I may have to read, The Sunrise on the Reaping, this year. And then Told in Verse I do have one for, so I should be okay on that. Second page has quite a few more spots. Yeah, this one I think I can, these ones I think I can do. I need a book set in the 1940s. Let me know if you have a book that you really liked that was written in the setting of the 1940s. Direction in the title is a little weird too. And then related to the word puzzle, I think I'll be okay with that one. My buzzword challenge for the month, the title challenge and the cover challenge were animal. So I chose Scythe and Sparrow for the title, and for A Man Called Ove, or Ova, there's a little cat on the bottom. I don't think you can really see him, but if you look at the cover, there's a little cat on the bottom. So I did that one for title, or for cover. Going strong on that challenge. I already have my next 2 books picked out because I had 2 on my TBR that worked. And then my A to Z challenge, for N, I have Never. And then for O, I have Once Smitten, Twice Shy. I'm getting down to where it's like the hard letters, so I only had 2 this month. And I don't like to reuse. Like if I used one in the 52, I won't use it there. If I use one in the buzzword challenge, I won't use it here either. So this is just kind of leftover ones just to see. And then I jinxed myself because, and I have to look because I just got another one too. I was like, oh, I only get like 30% of the books that I ask for on NetGalley. And then I ended up getting like 6 or something last month. And then I've already got 1 more for this month. So I'll wait to add that. So I am like, I gotta get on these, reading these. But I do have, the way they're coming out, I can read like 2 a month and still be ahead of when the book comes out. So I think I'll be okay there. But yeah, I have 2 that I read this month, which are my friends, and it's a love story, so I can fill that little gap in. But I'm pretty sure I just got Nadia Alfasi's next release, which is another kind of witchy one, I believe, that comes out later this year. So I have to add that to this as well. So yeah, gotta get on it. So those are the ones I have so far. There is one at the top, but I think I'm gonna read that this month, so that'll get colored in soon. And I actually have 2 I have to add to this. So I jinxed myself. I shouldn't have said that. So that is all for this one. That's the whole thing. That's all for this vlog too. So let me know in the comments what your favorite read this month was. I guess I can't do that in my wrap up anymore because I don't do those. But let me know what your favorite book that you read in April is. What's your May release that you're most excited for? There's so many good ones coming out. I am really excited for The Night and the Moth. Rewind It Back comes out. That is on its way to my house. It is May 3rd. And Barnes & Noble shipped that book to me. And that book's not supposed to come out till the 20th. I don't know why they shipped it. I'm assuming I'm not going to be the only one in that boat. So I don't know why they shipped that book so early. But I'm not complaining. Very excited for that. The next Boys of Toman book comes out. I know I'm missing a whole bunch because I know I went over them. But yeah, I'm very excited for the book releases this month. And, oh, Tara DeWitt's new book. Yeah. So I have a lot of pre-orders coming this month too. So I'm going to try not to buy books outside of my pre-orders, other than like there's one that I have my eye on that I really want to go get. So other than that, thank you all so much for watching if you've made it this far in the video, and I hope to see you all in the next one.